Mindset number 4 is standing up to the naysayers. If you look at what Mark Zuckerberg has built, what you'll see is that building wealth and building a successful business is not a popularity contest, because there's a lot of people that use Mark Zuckerberg's platforms that don't like Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, he was named one of the worst CEOs of the year. There are entire movies like The Social Network that trash him and his ideology. And even the White House hates Mark Zuckerberg for building his businesses. Yet, if we look at the other side of the coin, Mark Zuckerberg has also built a $1 trillion business. He's created more than 70,000 jobs, and he's one of the most successful people in the world. So you can hate him or understand his mindset. Mindset number 5 is be the best at what you do. When Kobe Bryant was playing on the Lakers, Kobe Bryant made sure nobody outworked him, not just so he could be the best player on his team, not just so he could be the best player in the NBA, but so he could be the best player of all time in the world. That was his goal. When practice started at 10, he didn't show up at 9:45 like everybody else. By 10 a.m., he had already finished 3 hours of practicing and finished a full workout before practice even started. That way he could get his reps in, he could get his extra practice in, he could get the extra work in when everybody else was sleeping. See, for Kobe Bryant, playing average was never part of his goal. It was never part of his dictionary. It was never part of his mindset. Playing like everybody else was never an option. He wanted to be the best, and nothing else was an option, and he would do whatever it took to make sure that happened. Mindset number 6 is think bigger. When Steve Jobs was building Apple, and there are a lot of books and movies out there about his life and his journey of building Apple now, which I highly recommend you watch, but when he was building Apple, he didn't think small, and he wasn't thinking about the next 6 months or even the next 6 years. He was thinking decades ahead, because he wanted to build something that most people couldn't even conceptualize today. When he had the idea to build a touchscreen phone, there was no concept of building a phone that was touchscreen. That was when we had things like Blackberries, if you remember, that you would type on a phone, and the closest thing to touchscreen was you could use a stylus out of your Palm Pilot. But what Steve Jobs was thinking was, how can we break the norm? How can we break the mold? How can we do something that nobody can think of today? Because if you asked people then what they would have wanted in their phones then, they would have said a bigger keyboard. But he did something completely different. He then innovated the touchscreen phone, and what he said is each one of us have 5 styluses on our own hands, which are our own fingers, and that's how he created the idea of a touchscreen phone, when everybody thought that that was the dumbest thing in the world, because everybody said, why would you want a touchscreen phone? Because as soon as you put it in your pocket, you might butt dial somebody. You might create all these other issues if you have a touchscreen phone. But he was thinking many years ahead of his time. And not just that, he was also thinking about music storage in a very different way, because he wanted to build simplicity and user friendliness, while everything else was trying to go after the newest technical gadgets. He wanted to build something that was simple and easy to use, which most people thought was stupid until Apple started dominating the industry. And mindset number 7 is you study the game. Warren Buffett is one of the most successful investors of all time. And if you take a look at his schedule, even into his 80s, how he spent his time wasn't just working the way that most people will traditionally consider working. His work was studying the game, studying companies, studying the competition, studying numbers, studying economics. What he has said multiple times in interviews, that he spent 5 to 6 hours a day just reading. Now, he's not reading fiction books just to read stories. He's reading to learn. He's reading to study. He's reading to understand. He's understanding what is happening in the companies that he invests in. He's reading to understand what's happening in the macro economy. He's reading to understand what's happening in different sectors of our economy. He's reading to understand the financials. That way he can be more educated, so he can understand and study and be the smartest person out there, even though he built an enormous amount of wealth. He didn't get there on accident. He had the mindset of, I need to know more than everybody else, that way I can make the smartest decisions, because he put in the effort to study the game. So if you want to build the mindset of a dominator, these are the types of traits that you want to start adopting. And yeah, it's weird. And yeah, it's a little obsessive. And yeah, it's a little crazy. But if you want to be the best, you can't keep doing what everybody else does, because if you keep doing what everybody else does, you're going to end up like everybody else. And unfortunately, the majority of people today are unhappy, they are unfulfilled, and they're financially broke. So if you want to break out of that mold, you got to start doing things a little bit crazier, which people are not going to understand, but that's going to give you the opportunity to truly dominate and find that real success for yourself. If you enjoyed this clip and you want to continue your financial education journey, I have another video that I think you'll love. All you got to do is click that button right over there. And for those of you who want to stay up to date on the top finance and business news, you can join Market Briefs, my free financial newsletter, by clicking that button below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.